Welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning. I'm delighted to be joined today by Stuart Matthews, who is the Managing Director of Miller Metcalfe and also Propertymark Regional Executive of the Northwest. Stuart, how are you doing?
I'm very well, mate. Very well.
Good.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming on. So, how did you get into agency?
I sort of fell into it by mistake, really. I started my career in banking and I moved into travel. And then 9/11 happened and that industry sort of collapsed. So we had to make a decision. I either sort of stuck it out and tried to do the best I could, but obviously business was really, really slow then. But then I had a friend who worked in a estate agency, and she said, "Listen, I think you'd be all right at this. You're quite, you're good on the phone. You can talk to people. I think you should give it a go." So her boss interviewed me, and I got the job, and that was sort of 2002. So I was quite a late starter to agency as such, I suppose. And my career's gone on from strength to strength as years have gone by.
Fantastic. So I want to take you back to being in banking and being in travel. What were the lessons that you learnt from there that you've brought into use in agency?
I think the biggest one, and it sounds really old school, but people buy from people. So you've got to build up that trust with the customer and just be honest and open with people, because sometimes, certainly in an estate agency, people don't like that if you're open and honest with people, but it works. There's no point trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. It just comes back to bite you on the ass.
I couldn't agree more. Why do you think, as estate agents entrusted to sell sellers' biggest tax-free assets, and with landlords entrusted to maximize their investment, how can the industry improve estate agents' name and for the public to see that they are trusted, they do an incredible job? I mean, I see what estate agents do and the job they do, not only for their sellers, but also in their local community. But on the flip side, I've just done some work and I'm ashamed what I've seen and learned firsthand. Yeah. And it's scary, and I understand why. So what, as an industry, can we do to demonstrate we're trusted advisors?
It's all about being professional and being qualified. If you look at the house buying process, you go to a mortgage advisor who has been qualified, you apply for a mortgage, you employ a surveyor to survey the house who's qualified, you employ a conveyancer or solicitor who's qualified, but you can use an estate agent who's basically set up in the kitchen, who's not qualified. And that part of the transaction I think is the most important bit. So it's really, to me, it's the most important. We're only going to build trust if you are a qualified, knowledgeable person. And until we get to that stage where everybody's qualified, I think we're on an uphill struggle, really.
It's not going to happen, is it? I know there's ROPA. I know we've been talking about it for a long time, ever since I've been in the industry a few years. Always been talking about it. I've been to America, I've been to Australia. I do some work with agents in Republic of Ireland. They're all qualified. Why is it not happening here?
Well, that's down to people like myself or other business owners who take it upon themselves to encourage their staff to be qualified. It's down to, if you look at the general negotiator in the office, does it matter to them if they're qualified or not? Probably not that much. But from a consumer's point of view, I think it does. And we've just got to keep on banging the drum. I think we will get there eventually. If you look at all the corporates, they push that. I took all my exams when I was working for a corporate estate agency. It was encouraged. And to progress your career, you had to be qualified, which was, again, a positive step. And I think we just got to keep on.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it so frustrated me, some of the things I've heard recently, where I've had agents telling me about their tactics and tricks they're going to use. This is their language, this isn't mine. The white lies they tell when an offer comes in. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, as a consumer, I know what's going on because what I do for my job.
Yeah.
But does a consumer actually know what an estate agent does? And how well, as a profession, are we educating the consumer about what an estate agent actually does so we can build that trust?
We probably don't do it enough. That's why the consumer doesn't see the difference between Office A, who's charging 2%, and then Office B, who's charging 0.5%. No, they probably don't. And that's, again, down to people like Propertymark to voice their concerns and keep on pushing that message out there that it is, really essential that you use a qualified agent.
Okay, so coming back, you mentioned that you worked at corporate.
Yeah.
What lessons did you learn from the corporate that you brought into your business?
Recruitment is absolutely key, because if you get it wrong, it can cost you a lot of money and waste a lot of time. Get it right, and it works. The turnover we had in the corporate world was quite high, and I didn't understand that really. But now I see why, because it's all about listings, or hitting those KPIs, those targets. When really, if you take a step back, it's not about that. You're taking a customer on a journey. You are. I always say to my team, listen, you are a dream maker. You are making people's dream. They're going to move into their home of their dreams. It's not just sell them a house. It's more than that. And I think, when we do interviews now, people say, oh, yeah, I want to be walking around £2 million houses. I wanted to show people the swimming pool and jacuzzis. And the reality is, listen, you Mr. Interviewee, you're going to be sat behind a desk for 9 hours a day on the phone, on the computer. You're not going to be walking around £2 million houses. I think people's their view on the estate agency is completely different from the reality. And again, we try and get that across in the interview stage, right from the offset.
Yeah, watching too many selling sunsets and million and Lux listings and all of that.
Yep.
Okay, I love the fact you talked about being a dream maker. One of the things that again I see is that too many agents see it as a one-off transaction, whereas trying to get that client for life, being that agent for life. Again, and I see so many buyers go into witness protection. They never ever hear from their agents, once they've bought through them. Again, how can that change? What needs to be done?
If you look at the other models, like you say in America and Australia, it's a family orientated business. It's a lifetime. So with what we're trying to do, I suppose, is follow that a little bit in terms of contacting that consumer on their 1 year anniversary. How's it going? Have your mortgage rates changed, etc., and keep on going with that. And that's the only way we're going to build that trust element again better, and work towards that, where it's not just about the transaction, it's about building that relationship. If you can do that over time, then we don't need to spend a load of money on marketing for new leads, because we'll have new leads coming in automatically anyway. But it's a tough ask, because that's not the norm at the moment.
100%. And from my point of view, what's really interesting, and you said before, and you talked about surveyors and solicitors and all part of a process. And then if you look at other businesses, so if you've got a car, your coat goes in for an annual service, you should go to the dentist. dentist, if you're watching this, every year. You should get your glasses checked every year. If you've got a financial advisor and you've got investments, you have a minimum meeting once a year. And people are, have bought their biggest tax-free asset. And if agents are going back every year and saying, right, you know what, if you did this or you did that and made that improvement, actually, when they do come to sell, guess who they're going to go to? You're going to be the only agent. You're going to get the fee that you deserve. You're not competing against these 0.5% agents. And I can't understand the short-sightedness in the industry.
Well, that goes back to, if you look at a similar, I recently changed my car. The minute I went on to get a settlement figure, the day after, that car dealer phoned me and said, "Oh, Stuart, I see you, are you thinking about changing your car?" They were on it. And yes, it opened up a conversation. But again, it's about the communication. It's not sell. It's right, okay, talk to me about your situation, what you're thinking about doing. It's not just, "Oh, I've got this car for you." It's about, right, okay, how can we help you take that next step into that next vehicle? And we need to be doing that with people's lives and houses.
Couldn't agree more. I want to come back to something you talked about, recruitment, and how challenging that is. So how do you find those right people to sit in the right seats on the bus?
It's really hard. Most people don't like changing careers as such. So you've got to sort of tap into the other similar ones, like I say, travel is quite useful for us because it's a similar sort of ilk in terms of being consumer friendly. People that come out of recruitment doesn't work for most of those because it's not a hard sell. But that is probably the most challenging aspect of the job at the moment, is trying to find the right candidate. And you can put out adverts on Indeed, and you'll get thousands of applicants, but in reality, it's not what you want. The recruitment agencies will always tell you your salary's out of sync and people want more money, and people will only jump for thousands of pounds extra. But I don't believe that. I think if you've got a decent brand and a decent operation, then you should appear to be attractive to other people, and that's all we can do, really.
100%. So you've obviously worked over the 20 plus years you've been in the industry with some exceptional top performers. What do you think it takes to be a top performer in a estate agency, please?
Attention to detail is one. Organised, being able to communicate with somebody selling a 2-bedroom house that's worth 50,000. Being able to communicate with somebody selling a 5-bedroom detached with swimming pool at 2 million. I think you have a very broad spectrum, but also be interested in people as well. I think show interest in people, and you open up a two-way conversation then. I've always been told you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so listen more than you talk, and you'll get along okay.
Listening is quite a hard quality. How can you get people to become better listeners?
Again, we try and do some coaching with our staff. We sort of listen back to their calls. We try and educate them as to say, okay, how do you think that went? Most people can know when they're doing something right or wrong. And if they're getting the good results, share those ideas. We've got probably about a dozen negotiators, and some of them are exceptional and some of them not so exceptional. And there's not a lot of difference between the two. So sometimes it is about observing what good looks like and try and take that on board.
Okay. So what does good look like in Stuart's book?
Listen, communicate clearly, be truthful and honest, be a good team player, and come to work. Or I have something on my board. It just says, "Bring your best self to work." So whatever the best you can, if you're doing your best, we can't ask any more than that. And that's all I ask people to do is, I try and do it myself. And it's on the board there. It's in writing, That's all we ask. Do your best.
Okay. I like the fact right behind you, you've got loads of positive affirmations. I know what was the purpose of it. What made you decide to put those up on your wall? I presume they're around the offices as well.
Yeah.
So consistently see it. What made you go down that route?
I think sometimes you can get distracted very easily and become a little bit negative. So all I do is I turn to my wall and I just choose one and go, you know what? Let's do that today, or let's take that journey. Life is really hard, and I don't need to make it any harder for anybody else. So we're just trying to be the best we can whilst we're here. But also those types of things sort of inspire me a little bit, because they're just little snippets that can change your attitude in a matter of seconds.
And where have you got all these from? Where did you get your positiveness from?
Just Google anything, internet. Honestly, positives. I don't tend to read the news very much. I think there's a lot of negative press, so I try and avoid that. If I'm honest, I try and read quite a lot, whether that be just normal types of books, but also business sort of business books as well.
What would you say your top 3 business books are?
I probably don't have a top 3, but the best book I ever read, was the Chimp Paradox.
Steve Peters.
Yeah, it sort of blew my mind in a way, because I used to be quite anxious about quite a lot of things, and my chimp used to take over, and it just changed my life. It really did. I remember we went to Florida, and I'd never been on roller coasters. I hated them. And after I read that book, I went on all of them. It was just mind blowing. And I just realized, you know what? You're not going to die. So, yeah.
Great lesson there. So building culture, building a team. How do you get that culture into your team? And how do you get people to take the action and implementation that's going to benefit them and the business?
So we try and work with some external partners as well to have the staff recognise that we are all different. We all operate slightly differently. And also to recognise that their relationships with their staff and their customers will be different. And there's nothing wrong in that, but you have to learn to adapt your style, if you like, your management style, to those individuals, because we don't all react the same way. So we have spent quite a lot of time with the senior team and all the branch managers as well, looking at that to try and recognise where we are within that sort of pattern, if you like.
Okay, great. If you were starting your business again today, what do you think you would do differently?
What would I do differently? I wouldn't start it during COVID, which is what we tend to do. I would probably not. That's a tricky one. I'll have to come back to that one. Leave that one with me. I'll think about that.
Fine. You haven't got long.
I know.
Okay. Okay. So that if you were setting up now and you were, there's people going to be watching this that want to get into agency, that want to set up their business, where would you look to get your first appraisals, property consultations, instructions from?
Stay local. Family, friends, get a lot of recommendations. Don't try and spread your net too thinly, because sometimes that doesn't work. We've tried that in the past, and it's come back and it's not worked. Stay where you can make a difference and have a positive impact on the marketplace. There are lots of pockets where there's a lack of agents or lack of good quality agents, so that's where I would choose. I'd go into one of those markets.
Lovely. Couple of final questions then. So, regional executive at Propertymark.
Yep.
What does that actually mean? And why? I know you spoke earlier about the importance of licensing, but yeah. So, what does Propertymark actually do, and does it really benefit the consumer?
So, the role as an executive is just to feed into the sort of board, if you like, and the advisory panels in terms of what's happening on the local areas. I cover the Northwest. We attend regional conferences where we can sort of network with other agents. And we have our executive days where we can look at how to improve our engagement with members. Obviously, Phil Spencer is a big part of the Move IQ with Propertymark, and his face is probably the most recognised, I suppose, rather than mine or the president of Propertymark. People won't know who he is, but everyone knows who Phil Spencer is. And if he can come across and people trust him, which they do, then that's all we can do, to sort of spread that message to say, listen, we work with Phil Spencer. He's a trusted person. He's a trusted voice. Anybody would buy a house off Phil Spencer. So
only if he's got Kirsty by his side.
Yeah. So it's just about, it's about promoting the Propertymark name and brand, and like you say, going back to the being qualified element. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to push members to get on to the qualifications. I'm currently sitting level 4 at the moment myself, so even at my age, if I can take it on, I'm sure there's a lot younger than me out there that can do it.
And how you finding the course and the training?
Quite difficult, if I'm honest. It's a long time since I've been in a classroom environment now, but reading stuff and absorbing it is tricky, especially with running the business as well. But yeah, I think I'm only doing it for myself, but also for the business, to show my staff that it's really important that we keep getting qualified and we keep learning.
I think that's fantastic what you're doing, and demonstrating you're leading from the front, and demonstrating actually what you're putting your money where your mouth is, to say, hold on, I'm not just telling you to do it, I'm going to do it myself. It's going to benefit all of us, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Do you want me to go back to that last question, or have you forgotten, or do you want me to ask you the final question?
Ask me the final question.
Okay. Who inspires you, Stuart?
My biggest inspiration was my late mum. She always had a positive, no matter what happened, always stay positive, friendly, always got a smile, but just be genuine to people, be your genuine self. And I try and do that every day.
Fantastic. Okay. So one final question is, how do people get hold of you, Stuart?
They can email me through Propertymark. They can email me through the Miller Metcalfe website. They can ring me direct. My number's on the website, I believe. If anyone's got any questions, I can help them if I can. If I don't know the answer to the question, I'll go away and find it, come back to them. But yeah, my door is always open.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really grateful for your time. So thanks very much. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Please like it, share it, get the message out there. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks very much.